Hey, good day, everybody. This is Tim O again, and hope you're having a good day. It's a beautiful day here in Boston. It's about 3:14 on Monday afternoon, and I had a really nice morning, and now I'm planning on having a good afternoon of just chilling out. But today I'm going through my little series here, along with my other on the same channel, but I kind of talk a lot of recovery and stuff like that. But on this, I also talk about music, because music is a huge part of my life, and it's about some of the albums and what they meant to me as the years gone on. And today I'm going to be talking about Ronnie Montrose, and this album is called Open Fire, and it's his first solo album, and if you can see that over the glare, but that's Ronnie right there, a young Ronnie. That's the front and back cover, and this is the inside cover, listing the songs and the musicians that played on it, like Edgar Winter, who also produced it, and there's Ronnie right there. And this album, really, today I want to talk about what the album meant to me. And it was, I remember really first hearing this album. I was up in Connecticut. I was staying with a friend, kind of needed to get out of the Boston area for a while. Everything seemed to be just getting a little bit crazy. And, of course, I was using at the time. It wasn't as bad, but there was, I wasn't, so hooked on this stuff. But there was a lot of sadness going on. My father died, and it was back in, at a time that, it was just kind of crazy stuff going on. And I was staying with a buddy of mine, Jeff, who lived up there, and we were just turning each other on to certain things that we loved, and certain things that were down the line would kind of mess with our lives. But it was a beautiful moment being up there, and Jeff was a really good guy. Unfortunately, Jeff passed away a few years back, and it's sad, but it was a fleeting moment that came and went, and it was a time when we were just thinking that we'd just last forever, And this album, I remember him dropping this on the turntable, and especially that song "Town Without Pity." Just some sweet guitar playing, and just Mandolinia that's the third cut on this. Just a really good rocker. But I remember we were listening to this, for a long time, and like I said, everything was kind of strange, but in a beautiful way. He lived up in Connecticut. It was he was right along the Connecticut River. It was just we'd walk down there, and like I said, I was only up there for a short time, but we'd walk down there and just sit by the river and just chill out, man. And those moments I'll always remember. And and then this album was like came into play. It came out in 1978, and my father passed away in 1983. So this was really when I kind of first heard it, and it was it was an album like of jazz, rock, acoustic music. It was a lot in the vein of Jeff Beck's album, excuse me, Blow by Blow. And you could tell when Ronnie was in Montrose that that first album and some of the second album would kill it, but he was definitely going to go solo. You could hear it, as Sammy Hagar did, and other members, and you could tell, but that he was going to be going out onto a solo career. But songs like Whaler and One and a Half from Montrose, and Tough Sedge, and what was that, Merry Go Round from Jump On It, they contain that various acoustic synthesizer and string elements, and it showed Ronnie he was looking like to branch out in his own, and Ronnie hooked up with Edgar Winter, and Edgar Winter again played on this. He played keyboards, and and he also produced the record. And Edgar at that time, I remember seeing Edgar with the Allman Brothers back in like '78. We all went up to see Black Sabbath, and Sabbath was playing like on that Sunday, and the Allman Brothers and with Edgar Winter backing them up played Friday night. And we actually couldn't get into the venue. We were all camping out there, but you could hear it. They had the doors open. It was cranking. It was heavy duty. Edgar doing Frankenstein and Free Ride and stuff like that. And then the Allman Brothers were just killer. But this album was really a big part of that time. I just actually bought this up in New Hampshire. I was up there a few weeks back. Well, actually, it was a while back. Everything's a few weeks back with me, but we were up there, and I came upon a little record store, and I went in, and this album and a few others were there, and I picked it up again because somewhere around down the road, it got lost. But when I think about this album, I think about there's something about it. I think about the mountains and, switchblades, which were a big thing back then. Serenity, but in a totally different way, just being out there where he lived, and it was very country-ish. And, we used to play this thing. We'd go outside, and he'd put the speakers up in the window, and we'd just blast this sucker. And there was hardly anybody around. His house was set way back, and it was almost like it was like this ancient looking house, had the vines all over it, and it's just it's just really a great memory, and we'd go out and we'd just like hike around, go out in the woods, out back. It was just really cool, and I miss Jeff. And like I said, he was like a guy I knew for a short time, kind of like a using guy, but he was a good dude, and we had some fun. We raised some hell together. We got up into some mischief, I remember, the mosquitoes out there, freaking things were eating us alive. We weren't even thinking about off or any of that stuff, but we were relentless. We were just relentless drifters, and just living recklessly. And I remember it was hot out there. I could still remember that humidity. It was kind of overwhelming, that humidity, to be honest with you. But songs like Rocky Road. What was that other one? God, it's been so long, Rocky Road, My Little Mystery, Heads Up. Those were like songs that just kind of stood out, and with that, those kind of featured more of the acoustic guitar, and and which I loved. I loved it, and Edgar Winter was playing harpsichord back then, and really it was a good debut album. And if you have it, at the time it might not have been like as rocking as somebody, but if you put this album on now, it's like there was like some accomplished jazz and fusion, and Tony Williams was drumming on the record, and it was Brian Auger was on keyboards, who was fantastic. Who was that dude? Mario Cipollina, he was on bass. Billy Codman was on drums. I mean, come on, how can you fault that, you know? And what was that other one? Jesus, yeah, just the whole album was good. And like I said, it was produced by Edgar Winter, and it just brings back great memories. I love the music of my life. It's just like so much good stuff happened. And music was a big part of it. Was a big part of being around it. And I mean, we used to just drown ourselves, Jeff and I, in just music. He had a great collection, really great collection. And I have a really great collection. I'm surrounded by music, and I love it. It has been a savior to me, to be quite honest with you. And when I hear albums like this, it brings me back to a time when I was younger, and life wasn't all that complicated. And we weren't like big guys in social situations. We were kind of loners, and we were adventurous. It was an adventurous time. And I don't know, like, adventurous might be a word, might be different to some people. But, we kind of chose the course that we went on. And, we had some great ideas. I remember we used to sit around, he had a fire pit out there, and we used to sit around and talk about all these things we wanted to do. And, about settling down and having a comfortable life, and not maybe blowing our minds out of the friggin' stratosphere all the time. Turning over a new leaf, and just kind of being placid, being comfortable. It took a long time for that to happen. And unfortunately, Jeff died from the way that we lived. He did end up quitting using, but the damage was already done. He had cirrhosis, and it tore him up. And if we could have maybe seen a little bit further than our eyes were allowing us to see, maybe none of that stuff would have happened, and maybe it was supposed to happen. Not all of us have these really spectacular lives, and everything's like speckled around us in gold dust. Some of us had to get down to the bottom in order to come back up. But what, this album really brings that fire. I love the name of that, and it still has strength when I hear it. Like, I just heard it the other day, and it just felt really good, man. And hear those like album, those records of the day, like the Who were using the Moog synthesizer. It's on this, and just great musicians. And like I said, I mean, if you have this album, go back and listen to it. Give it a shot. And it might surprise you. Back in '78, I was into a whole different type of music, but I took a shot with this, and I liked it. And I'm so glad that Jeff introduced me to it. He had a good eclectic taste in music, and God bless you, Jeff. And I appreciate you doing that, and just a little bit about, Town Without Pity. It's probably the best version that I've ever heard, to be quite honest with you. Ronnie Montrose on guitar, Edgar, playing piano, Alan Fitzgerald is on bass, and Rick Schlosser on drums, and it's just a great version. And even if you just go back and listen to that, just some fantastic playing, some fantastic guitar playing by Ronnie. And Ronnie had his demons too, And if I'm not mistaken, he came down with cancer, and before it killed him, he killed himself. But anyways, I just wanted to bring that album to you right here. Open Fire, by Ronnie Montrose. Go check it out if you can, and have a great day.